In a time when faith ruled all and knowledge was danger, one monk's forbidden manuscript holds the key to secrets powerful enough to shake the medieval world to its core. The bitter scent of smoke and sweat clings to the narrow alleys where night breathes heavy, wrapping the forgotten medieval town in a suffocating shroud. Flickering torchlight struggles against the thick, unyielding darkness as the clatter of chains and the distant hammer's relentless ring rise in a haunting symphony, a song of unseen toil. The air is thick with a stench so raw, so persistent, it seeps into the bones of those who pass through, the sharp sourness of animal flesh, mingled with the biting sting of lime and the acrid trace of urine. This is no place for the faint-hearted. Here, life is forged in grime and sacrifice. A lone figure moves like a wraith along the shadowed walls. His hands, dark as rotted bark, press against raw hides, softening the flesh that once drew breath. Each movement is deliberate, a slow dance, with death itself turning what once was living into supple leather, the backbone of countless lives. The tanner's trade is an ancient and cursed art, bound in the bitter curse of necessity and exile. To touch the dead is to flirt with impurity. To dwell among the refuse is to live on the edge of society's scorn. His skin, cracked and weathered, mirrors the pelts he works, toughened by years beneath sun and rain, stained by the rawness he cannot wash away. Fingers thickened and scarred, forever marked by the flesh they transformed. His breath rises in white clouds against the cold night air, the only sound besides the slow drip of water echoing through the alley. Somewhere, a cat slinks silently by, its eyes glowing like embers, watching the man who lives between worlds, neither fully seen nor truly forgotten, dot in the dimness. The flicker of flame reveals rows of drying hides, stretched taut, swinging, like ghostly sails in the chill breeze. The scent is a heavy cloak, one that isolates as much as it sustains. To be a tanner is to be bound to death's embrace, turning decay into utility, weaving life from what others reject. The very ground beneath his feet is soaked in history, a patchwork of blood, sweat, and grime, soaked deep into the stones and soil. This man moves through a world divided, a place where the boundaries between the sacred and the profane blur. Beneath the weight of survival, his labor is necessary, his presence indispensable. Yet, like a shadow stitched into the fabric of the town, he is never truly part of its heart. The marketplace bustles beyond the narrow lanes, filled with merchants and villagers whose eyes glance away when the tanner passes, a silent refusal to acknowledge the life woven through his hands as dawn whispers its pale light across the sleeping rooftops. The distant tolling of a bell shatters the fragile silence. It calls the town to rise, to shake off the night and step into the harsh glare of a new day. But the tanner remains, a figure etched in shadow and smoke, working still where others have fled. His story is one of invisibility, a life lived beneath the surface, whispered only in the cold wind that slips through the cracks of crumbling walls. In this silent existence, half life and half burden, the tanner's craft holds a fragile balance. His work is the hidden thread that binds the world together, a grim testament to the unspoken sacrifices made beneath the veneer of daily life. Each hide softened, each piece of leather shaped, is a small victory against decay and oblivion, a reclamation of life from the jaws of death. The truth of his labor is unsettling. It reveals the raw, often brutal foundations upon which medieval society was built, a web of trades and roles that carried a heavy toll. Those who touched the dead, who handled the foul and the forgotten, lived apart, yet kept the whole world turning. They were the silent weavers of survival, their stories wrapped in the same shadows that clung to the narrow streets. And as the town awakens, blinking in the morning haze, the tanner fades once more into the background, a ghost among the living, his hands still stained with the evidence of his sacrifice. The weight of his unseen toil presses on, a reminder that beneath every polished surface lies a darker truth. This is a world of shadows and smoke, of labor both necessary and reviled. It is a story of survival whispered on the wind, one that must be told, for in these hidden lives lies the heart of medieval existence, fragile, dark, and profoundly human. The bell tolls again, deeper now, calling the town to its next fate. Beyond the alleyways, another story waits, one of flesh and blood, of lives shaped by the very hands that remain unseen. The delicate balance holds, but for how long? A harsh winter morning unfolds beneath a sky heavy with steel-gray clouds, where frost etches brittle patterns across the ragged cloaks of laborers trudging through frozen mud. Each breath escapes in pale, trembling wisps, dissolving swiftly into the biting air. The sharp clatter of wooden carts mingles with the crunch of ice-hardened earth beneath weary boots, marking the relentless rhythm of a village caught in the grip of bitter endurance. Silence hangs thick, pierced only by the distant tolling of the chapel bell, its mournful cry weaving through the cold like a specter of loss. Amidst this frozen tableau, a solitary figure moves with solemn purpose, his spade carving deep into the stubborn soil, each strike measured and slow, as if afraid to disturb more than earth. The gravedigger is a ghost himself, cloaked in layers of threadbare wool, his hands raw and cracked from cold and toil. His breath rises in ghostly clouds, his prayers whispered beneath cracked lips, fragile as the frost that clings to the edges of his weathered hood. Around him, the damp scent of moss and decaying leaves seeps from freshly turned earth, a silent witness to the endless cycle of death that haunts the village. This land is no stranger to suffering. Disease has stalked these streets like a cruel hunter. Famine gnawed at bellies, hollowed by cold, and now the gravedigger is left to bury their secrets beneath a frozen shroud. His task is one of unseen mercy, a bridge between the living and the encroaching silence of the grave. With every shovelful, he seals away not only bodies, but also whispered stories, hope extinguished, promises unfulfilled. Names forgotten by the passing wind, the iron chains hanging nearby clink softly in the frosty breeze, cold metal echoes of bindings long since loosened. They speak of confinement, of punishment meted in shadows, and of lives tethered by law and fear. The gravedigger moves among these silent relics, a keeper of secrets no one dares to speak aloud. Isolation wraps around him like the thick mist curling through the bare branches above. He walks the narrow line between life and death, his solitude both a burden and a shield in the village. Life goes on, but it is a fragile thing, balanced precariously on the edge of despair. Mothers clutch, children tighter eyes, shadowed with hunger and fear. The market is sparse, the feast days forgotten beneath winter's unforgiving grasp. Yet the bell tolls steadily, a heartbeat marking the passage of time in a world where every day survived is a small victory. As noon approaches, the gravedigger pauses, leaning heavily on his spade, his shadow stretching long and thin across the frost-bitten ground. In that moment, he becomes more than a man. He is a haunting symbol of sacrifice, a living thread woven into the tapestry that binds the living to the dead. His silent vigil is a testament to the relentless march of medieval existence, a world where survival is shadowed by loss, and where the boundary between life and death is as thin and fragile as the frost that glistens beneath a pale winter sun. The cold wind stirs, carrying with it a faint scent of smoke and wood smoke, whispering of hearths that still burn and prayers still spoken. Yet beneath the frozen earth, the gravedigger's work continues, unseen but essential, a quiet, relentless force holding the village together through the darkest nights. And as the bell tolls again, the village exhales, caught between the sorrow of what has been lost and the faint hope of what may yet endure beyond the frost and soil. Another shadow wits the slow, uncertain dawn of a world changing beneath the weight of secrets buried deep. The flicker of candlelight dances against ancient stone walls, casting restless shadows that twist and curl across the cramped chamber where the night's labor unfolds in whispered secrecy. The air hangs heavy with the sharp scent of dried rosemary and warm beeswax mingling with the faint metallic temps of blood. The midwife moves with practiced grace, her worn hands steady and sure, despite the weight of invisible burdens that press upon her spirit. Outside the window, the distant chorus of wolves rises and falls, their mournful howls threading through the cold night, air blending with the soft cries of a newborn, fragile and trembling in the harshness of a world ruled by fate and faith. She is a guardian of life, standing at the fragile edge between hope and despair, in a time when every breath is shadowed by the specter of death. Her touch carries both salvation and suspicion, for hers is a trade lived in shadows, whispered in secrecy, bound by ancient rites, both sacred and forbidden. Every movement is a prayer, every whispered word a plea for mercy in a world quick to condemn the hands that heal. The rough textures of wool and worn leather press against her skin, reminders of a life tethered to service, sacrifice, and silent rebellion. Her chambers are filled with bundles of linen, steeped in the scent of herbs and quiet determination. The weight of countless lives passed through her hands rests like a silent hymn in the stillness. She tends not only to bodies, but to souls caught between worlds, offering comfort where none seems possible. The cries of the infant mingle with the crackle of the candle flame, its flicker echoing the fragile flicker of hope born in the darkest hours. Outside, the village sleeps beneath a shroud of frost and fear. Its people live beneath the heavy hand of unseen forces, the harsh grip of disease and superstition. The midwife's role is perilous, her every act a defiance of laws written in shadow and fear. She walks a tightrope between reverence and accusation, knowing that one misstep could bring ruin. Her hands are instruments of life and risk her presence, a silent testament to courage forged in silences. The night wanes and dawn breaks through the narrow window. A pale light spills across. Rough stone and threadbare cloth, the candles flame gutters, low casting long shadows that seem to hold their breath. Her gaze lingers on the fragile infants swaddled in tattered linen. A small life wrapped in hope and vulnerability. It is a symbol of resilience, a quiet promise that even amid darkness life will endure. In this moment, the midwife becomes more than a healer. She is a keeper of secrets, a bearer of whispered prayers and unyielding hope, a figure caught between worlds where faith battles fear, where love defies condemnation. Her story unfolds like the first fragile breath of a newborn, carried softly on the wind, setting the stage for the quiet resilience that will shape the chapters to come. In the damp shadows beneath a towering stone bridge, the sharp clang of the blacksmith's hammer rings out a steady, relentless rhythm. Sparks fly like fleeting stars, briefly illuminating a world steeped in soot and sweat. The air is heavy with the acrid scent of burning coal and molten metal, weaving with the distant murmur of villagers and the restless croak of circling ravens. Perched like silent sentinels overhead, the forge breathes fire and shadow, a crucible where raw power and quiet despair intertwine in every glowing ember. The smith's hands are a study in contrasts, calloused and stained, yet moving with a fierce tenderness. As he shapes iron with deliberate care, he crafts tools that will build fields and harvest crops, but also weapons destined for war and destruction. His labor is both creation and annihilation, bound to the fragile balance that holds this medieval village together. A rhythm pulses beneath the heavy stone arches that cradle his forge, a heartbeat, forged in flame and steel, echoing through the mist that coils like silent smoke around him. The world is a fragile mosaic of survival and ruin. The smoke-streaked walls of the forge hold witness to the quiet desperation etched into every swing of his hammer. Each strike reverberates like a prayer for endurance and a lament for the lives shaped and shattered by the weapons he crafts. In this place where fire meets iron, the smith stands as both protector and harbinger, bound by duty yet burdened by the darkness his craft conceals. His gaze falls upon a twisted blade resting among cooled embers, a stark symbol of the brutality that lurks beneath the village's peaceful veneer. This weapon carries stories forged in blood and shadow, its jagged edges reflecting the unspoken violence woven into the fabric of medieval life. The blade is a silent testament to the harsh truths often concealed behind everyday survival and quiet community bonds. The forge cools slowly beneath the cold light of distant stars, casting long, wavering shadows across the stone floor. The smith lingers in this dim glow, a figure caught between worlds where fire births both life and death. His breath forms faint clouds in the chill air as he contemplates the fragile balance he maintains. In a realm shaped by steel and sorrow, as the night deepens, the village sleeps under a veil of mist, but the echoes of the smith's hammer linger in the silence, a haunting reminder of the hidden forces that forge and fracture this world. The twisted blade waits patiently in the shadows, a dark truth poised to emerge and cast new light on the fragile peace that binds the lives of those who dwell beneath the towering stone bridge. The cold embers pulse softly, a heartbeat in the night, calling forth the next chapter of a story where creation and destruction dance in eternal shadow, where survival demands sacrifice and every forged weapon tells a story waiting to be unveiled. The damp, fetid air clings thick as a shroud, enveloping the city's narrow refuse pits, where night soil men move like shadows in a world rejected and reviled. The heavy scent of rot and decay hangs low, pressing into the ragged stones and twisting alleyways like a living thing. Their leather aprons, slick with grime and sweat, they carry the weight of a grim trade that others dare not face. The clang of wooden buckets and the muffled splash of foul waters echo softly beneath the flickering lantern light, which struggles to hold back the creeping mist that swallows all in grotesque silhouettes. They walk a path lined with shattered pottery and heaps of rotting refuse, a macabre landscape shaped by human neglect and survival. Their hands are skilled in the art of cleansing what others refuse to touch, measured by the heavy burden of social scorn. Yet beneath the disdain lies a cruel paradox, for their work sustains the fragile pulse of the teeming city, offering life by removing death in the form of filth and Ekatha night soil. Men navigate through the labyrinth of narrow streets, their presence marked only by the sharp clang of their tools and the scent that trails behind them like ghosts. They vanish with the coming dawn, dissolving into the waking world as if they were never there yet. Their sacrifice lingers unseen in the cleansing they provide, a grim shield against sickness and collapse, a line drawn between survival and ruining their silent journey. The men carry stories etched in grime and shadow, their toil a hidden thread woven into the tapestry of medieval existence. They bear the weight of unseen sacrifice, their footsteps heavy with the knowledge that their craft is both despised and indispensable. The city breathes because they endure its fragile life, held fast by hands stained with the darkness of necessary decays. The first pale light pries open the darkened sky, the lanterns gutter and fade, leaving only the ghostly outline of those who vanished with the night. Their figures dissolve into the hum of dawn, a reminder of the disturbing craft that guards the city's breath and holds at bay the slow, creeping ruin. A fragile balance persists where life and death mingle in shadow and silence, awaiting the next chapter of a story shaped by unseen hands. Under the muted glow of a waning moon, the watchman stands alone atop the ancient battlements. His breath rises in steady plumes against the chill night air that seeps through the cracks of rough-spun wool wrapped tight around his shoulders. His eyes pierce the blackened horizon, where shadows gather and shift like restless spirits, whispering of threats, both mortal and unseen. The world below lies cloaked in silence, broken only by the distant clang of iron gates and the faint murmur of a sleeping village. These sounds fade beneath the persistent cry of a lone night bird, whose call marks the fragile boundary between order and chaos. He is bound to a duty both solitary and relentless, a vigil carried out in shadow, where every creak of ancient timber and rustle of dried leaves bears the heavy weight of potential doom. The night is a tapestry of silence and subtle threat, woven through with the tension of unseen dangers. Lurking just beyond the flicker of torchlight, steady gaze sweeps the darkness, searching for the faintest sign of disturbance. His hands grip the cold leather strap of his horn, a promise held close to his palm, a warning yet to be sounded. In this frozen moment, the watchman becomes more than a sentinel. He is a living thread in the delicate fabric of protection and sacrifice that holds the medieval world together. His presence alone is a bulwark against the tide of fear and uncertainty that threatens to spill from the night. His shadow stretches long and thin along the stone walls, as if merging with the fortress itself, a silent guardian carved from rock and resolve. The moon dips lower, casting a silver light that fractures the darkness, slowly unveiling the first pale hints of dawn. The village beneath begins to stir as the night's spell loosens and the world tilts toward his vigil, complete for now, but never truly ended. For in the fragile balance between shadow and sunrise, he remains, a steadfast guardian poised between fear and hope, ready to sound the horn when the night yields to chaos's. The cold light of day creeps over the battlements. A question lingers in the stillness. What unseen dangers wait beyond the dawn's fragile glow? What silent threads will be pulled next in this relentless dance of survival and sacrifice? The watchman's story threads forward, entwined with the fates of those who live beneath his watchful eyes, heralding the next chapter of a world forever poised on the edge of shadow and light. The low murmur of chanting rises softly in the stone chapel, its echoes weaving through arches carved with the patience of centuries. The heavy scent of incense and melting beeswax clings to the cold air, mingling with the faint chill that seeps through ancient cracks. Candle flames flicker against worn carvings, casting restless shadows that dance like whispered prayers upon the walls. In quiet corner, cloaked in shadow, a monk kneels alone, his fingers tracing the fragile vellum of a manuscript, whose pages hold secrets too dangerous for the light of day. The parchment is worn smooth by years of reverent touch, yet the words etched upon it burn with a forbidden power, a record of sins, whispered and concealed knowledge that carries a weight heavier than the stones beneath his knees. Outside, the distant tolling of bells marks the passing hours, each ring a solemn reminder of faith's iron grip and the fear that binds this cloistered world. The bell's call is both a summons and a warning, a fragile thread that ties the monk to a life of silent exile, away from the violence and turmoil beyond these walls. His coarse robe brushes softly against the rough-hewn pews, a sacred fabric woven from humility and sacrifice's gaze rises slowly to the stained glass window, where fractured light spills in shards of ruby and sapphire across the cold stone floor. These shards seem like broken hopes, scattered by time, reflections of a relentless pursuit for redemption. In a world scarred by sin and shadow, the colors bleed like tears through the stillness, a silent testament to the fragile balance between grace and despair. The flicker of candle smoke coils upward, weaving a delicate veil that blurs the line between sacred and profane. In this quiet space, the monk is both guardian and prisoner, bound by the weight of hidden truths that could unravel lives or ignite forbidden fires. His breath is steady, but his heart carries the tremor of knowledge that demands both courage and silence. Within these walls, the struggle unfolds, unseen. The monk wrestles with faith and doubt, loyalty and fear, caught between devotion to the divine and the dangerous power of the written word. His solitude is a crucible where the price of knowledge is paid in whispered prayers and stolen moments beneath flickering candlelight. As the chapel falls into deeper silence, the shadows lengthen and the manuscript's secrets linger like ghosts waiting to be revealed. The stained glass fractures the light one last time, casting a mosaic of color and shadow across the stone. A final question hanging in the air. What is the true cost of hidden knowledge in a world ruled by faith, fear, and fragile hope? The veil of smoke drifts softly toward the vaulted ceiling, carrying with it the weight of untold stories and setting the stage for the next chapter, where the lines between light and darkness will blur and the cost of truth will come into sharper focus.